Just in time. Just in time, I hope. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, I can't see you though.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to Nerd Week Live here on YouTube. Let me turn that sound off there. There we go. We'll get back to... no, I guess I didn't. There's the stop button. And we'll get back to us, the folks at Nerd Caliber, bringing you the nerd news from the past week. And, of course, that stupid thing just jumped up in front of me, so now I have to get rid of that. All of this software. Folks, I'm running my brand new 2-monitor rig here. So, bear with me as I try to bounce back and forth among a couple of things. But, introductions are the appropriate thing to start with, so I will start with, I am Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, also known as first-person shooter on other places on the internet, burly adopter on the Twitters, and some other things. Joining me tonight is the Blue Bomber, the bald blue man himself. We're not talking about the guy from Blue Man Group, or anyway, never mind. Take it away.
Yeah, you're gonna beat that joke to death if you keep trying a little too much harder here.
I was trying way too hard.
Way too hard. But hey, 2 points for the effort. Hey, everyone, it's great to be back again. I've been a little off and on, a little bit here and there, a lot of personal business going on, but I am here for you guys today. It's Louis Correa, co-producer at Nerd Caliber. Crash the Stampede on Steam. I'm currently rocking around with Fallout 76, which is one of our topics for tonight. Which I'm hoping to, we'll chime in on that a bit. I'm having a great time on it, but, I'm also very critical of things. And then you can read my review on nerdcaliber.com concerning Fallout 76. But we're going to pick up this show with some awesome topics. Take it away, Rod.
Lots of topics. One of the reasons I'm doing the 2-monitor system is now I can see your chats much more easily because it's all over on this other monitor. And everybody, welcome. I'm glad you joined us. Anthony, hello. I am not, in fact, Captain Marvel. Nor do I play Captain Marvel on TV. I don't even have a mohawk, so I'm not sure how you're making that confusion. But anyway, thank you all. I posted at the very top of the chat all of tonight's topics. I'm going to try to do that ongoing so that you guys can see, you folks can all see what it is that we're going to be talking about and anticipate, build up your questions, and so on. So hello. And our first topic, we've got a lot of them, folks, so we're going to get right into it. A lot of them are just kind of straight up news pieces, but there's a lot that are worth discussion. This is pretty much the news piece right here. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. The series had its run just a month or so ago, and already we have confirmation that season 2 will be dropping, and not long at all. April 5th is the date of season 2 of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. On Netflix, of course, which is where you saw it before. I am excited about the show. I liked it. I'm looking forward to season 2 and where they take the sort of changes that happen to Sabrina's character at the end. I don't mind so much. I mean, if you followed this, I've commented about how it seems a little bit minstrel show for people who are actually Wiccans. Except I'm kind of the only one who thinks that, or just a few people. And most of the Wiccans I know don't really care. So I guess it doesn't matter. And Lewis suddenly zooms in on himself. Awesome cut there. So April 5th, you get to see it. My only complaint about that is that they didn't delay it for 2 weeks. So that it would actually be on Easter weekend. And that's just me being a jerk about religion and stuff. I think that would be hilarious. What with all the Satanism and so on going on in there. Lewis, have you seen the first episode yet? I
I've
mean, the
actually
first series.
seen. I've actually completed the whole first half of that season, and it's funny. I didn't like it as much as everybody else did.
So your complaints were what? Not
It
enough.
was kind of
Not enough wine. Was it? No.
no. Well, my drinking cup is off tonight. Is taking a siesta tonight as I tossed it over to the side. So I'm drinking out of the Romeo and Juliet chalice glass
Okay.
today for a bit of vodka. But regardless of which, one of the things that I disliked, I guess, is I felt like there wasn't a lot of the plot didn't flow for me very well. Like there was a lot of points in Sabrina where it was kind of janky for me. Like they kind of stumbled in terms of what direction they were going to go, and then there was a bit of a I felt like a bit of a inconsistency in terms of the aunt. Like you had one aunt that was like really nice, and then one aunt who was kind of a bitch, and it kind of she was like yo-yo so much throughout the plot that I was just like, all right, what's going on here? Like you're kind of you either love her or you don't. Like I understand that she's put in a position where she's like adores everything about being a witch and everything and the pact with the devil, but at the same time it's like you kind of raise this child from birth. You're gonna act like this much of a bitch most of the time.
Yeah, I can see that complaint. I just sort of took it as this is a character who, even while she was being pretty horrible to Sabrina, clearly loved her, and that came out very clearly towards. No spoilers because we're not saying why or how, but it came out pretty clearly, in the later episodes. Hail Satan, Anthony. She does not have a talking cat yet. Oop, that was a spoiler.
No, everybody
Well,
everybody knew that. That was in like if you were living under a rock in a cave in Mars, that's the only way you wouldn't know that was a thing.
that is true. And living on a rock on a cave in Mars would be pretty cool, except the lack of air. So anyway, April 5th, folks. If you liked it, if you want to see more of it, that's when you can get to see it. Next topic up here is that is of course Nick Nolte, and he has joined the cast of the Jon Favreau produced and written streaming show on the new Disney series, The Mandalorian. Like any of the cast members have been announced, they will not say what character they're playing, what their role is, what involvement in the story he has at all. But it's a big enough role that they made an announcement that he's in the cast. This is, of course, his character from Tropic Thunder, and my God, I want him to have a character like that. Do the full up, both hands Anakin Skywalker, or Luke later on, missing both hands, except this time instead of the, pincers, he's got like full Anakin hands. That's what I want.
I mean, Nick Nolte. I feel like yeah, sure, we can have that version of Nick Nolte, but I kind of like Predator 2 version Nick Nolte.
As long as we don't get Prince of Tides version of Nick Nolte.
All right, well, we all can't punch above our weight.
If he is, then they also have to add Barbara Streisand. Just saying. Just because that would be awesome. Completely change the nature of the show, but that would be awesome. All right, so and that's it. There's there's not a whole lot there. He's been added to the cast. We don't know anything about what he's going to play. We have no idea when this is actually going to stream. We basically know nothing except that he's going to be in it. And apparently he was one of the actors that was on the short list to play Han Solo before Harrison Ford signed on. So that's cool. But I don't think he's going to be a Han Solo.
Yeah, that'd be kind of weird. Unless he was like grizzled dead Han Solo.
Grizzled dead Han Solo. Anthony, yes, please. Can we get Gary Busey in there too? Yes, please. Or, hey, let's do a 48 Hours reunion. Get Eddie Murphy. Oh, now we're talking.
No, now you're flying too close to the sun there.
I know. That's a little too brilliant an idea. All right, speaking of brilliant ideas, I think, but brilliant ideas that I know absolutely nothing about, and unfortunately, Byron couldn't make the show, and Byron knows this stuff. He's the guy to be talking about this. But that is apparently Gogeta, which was a non canon fusion of Goku and Vegeta. So it would be Gogeta, I guess. That we've now found out is in fact now canon because Gogeta will be appearing in the upcoming Dragon Ball Z Broly movie.
Yeah.
And yay, that's what I know about that.
Anime is not really my forte, so forte.
Anime is not my. Well, actually, that's not true. I love anime. Dragon Ball Z is not mine because Dragon Ball Z, I can't. I don't have time to invest one entire episode with one person delivering one punch. You know,
So like all shonen.
and not all. I mean, there's some shonen that's well, but yeah,
Name one.
I will come up with one at some point. I guarantee it.
If you can't think of it right off the top of your head, the fucker don't exist.
Well, in my defense, I don't know the terminology well enough to immediately go, "Oh, that's a shonen show."
Anybody in the chat? Anyone got an idea about this?
You know what? I was about to go Attack on Titan, but no, that one cannon shot that took 3 episodes. Yeah, so all right, no. Keijo. I don't know. I don't know if Keijo. Can you call it shonen? Anyway, it's more.
Nine.
It's more hentai without like the actual. It's like Tumblr hentai. You know, soon it won't actually have any genitalia. Anyway, moving on to the next topic. This was also recommended by Byron, but I know a little bit more about this, so. That is, in fact, not a story about My Hero Academia specifically. It's a story about Funimation. And as you may recall, Funimation ended its agreement to partner with Crunchyroll to provide their content on each other's platform a couple of months ago. Well, we just now found out that Funimation's painful breakup didn't last that long, and it's found a new boyfriend or girlfriend, a new significant other in Hulu.
Boo. And I just canceled my Hulu sub too.
Well, now we don't know for sure. My Hero Academia and Attack on Titan, which I just mentioned, are in fact shows that are on the Funimation platform. We don't know whether or not there will be no viewing of either of those two shows on Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll does pick things up after the fact. It may be a season later, as they picked up a bunch of stuff that was last year on Amazon recently. But we just don't know. What we do know is that Funimation and Hulu will be simulcasting subs and dubs as soon as they appear in Japan on each other's platform. So
from what I've read, from the article I skimmed really briefly about 20 minutes ago, it did mention that the contract is very inclusive in that virtually everything on Funimation will be available on Hulu and the simulcast at the same time. So the likelihood that My Hero and any other popular hit show that is hosted by Funimation comes out, it will be on Hulu, but the contract begins in 2019 from what I read.
Which, unless you don't have your calendar, is 4 weeks from now. So coming right up.
Right. They just weren't specific when in 2019. They just said 2019. That could be January. That could be June.
That's true. That is true. I would guess it's going to be sooner rather than later. In fact, I would guess it's probably going to be coming right around the same time that the Marvel Netflix or Disney Netflix deal falls apart, which is March. Because the last thing that Netflix will have of Marvel and Disney is going to be Captain Marvel. And so I'm guessing the deal will happen no later than March, the Funimation Hulu deal, because Hulu's losing... No, other way around. Hulu is also gaining all of the content from Disney because Disney is now the primary owner. So I'm guessing all of that's going to sort of roll in at the same time. Pure guess. Have no idea for sure. So, moving on to our next topic. And that is these cute little bunnies. We've had this picture of these cute little bunnies up here before. These cute little bunnies are not, in fact, that terribly cute. This is still from the upcoming BBC animated version of Watership Down, which again will be on Netflix. Tonight is the Netflix, like almost all Netflix stuff tonight for some reason. They're just making announcements left and right. So the news is the first official trailer for a show that's coming out in 3 weeks just dropped, and I gotta say I'm less impressed than I was just reading about it. It's just the animation is weird. The animation is off at times. It's splotchy. I was going to make a point with a friend who was or another teammate. We were talking about this in chats, and that it was well, it's still time to work on it. No, it premieres in 3 weeks. This sucker's pretty much done, or should be done.
I've honestly I've never heard of this. Like I don't know what it's about.
So, do you know what Watership Down is?
I have no idea what that is.
All right, so we'll take a few seconds here to inform Lewis. Watership Down is a book that was written in the 1970s that tells the story of a couple of hutches of wild rabbits in the English countryside in a manner that is straight up Animal Farm, or it is the politics, the violence, the combat warfare, the conflict between various groups of rabbits is played like human political conflict, and it's brutal, it's violent, it's disturbing, it's accurate in the nature of how rabbits and groups of rabbits interact, as many groups of mammals do. But then all the characters are named and they speak, and that gives it even more of a political and violence focused bent. And it's cute bunnies that's in a terribly disturbing story. Joseph, it's Animal Farm with bunnies, pretty much.
Oh, thank you for that summary.
Yeah. So that's it. There was a classic animated version of it done in the 80s, I believe, with standard cell and pastel-looking, animation, watercolor sort of looking animation. This is, of course, CG. The voice cast is insane. James McAvoy, Peter Capaldi, just fantastic voice acting talent. And that's my other problem with it. The voice actors sound like they've got this standard British, quiet, earnest enthusiasm type way of speaking that unfortunately happens a lot with British voiceover work to try to make things sound more important and serious, as opposed to just act them like they're humans. But anyway. Yeah, Joe, watch it on Filmstruck. Yeah, no. That website went, so that ain't going to happen, but thank you for the suggestion. So anyway, that's what the news is there, Lewis. December 23rd? It's coming up very quickly. December 23rd on Netflix, and December 22nd and 23rd on BBC UK and on BBC One in the UK. So it should be a heart-wrenching, beautiful, disturbing piece of animation, and it kind of looks not kind of not half-assed, but three-quarter-assed.
Budgeted ass.
Joseph, it does have the BBC TV feel, but not So if you've been watching the current season of Doctor Who, the production quality is literally through the roof compared to previous seasons. Um, BBC TV's Doctor Who right now looks like a top-notch Netflix or Amazon Prime streaming show, or Hulu for that matter. Um, you know, that quality of production values clearly did not move over to Watership Down. Um, yeah, that's a good point. Joe clarifies he meant vocally. Yes, vocally, yeah, absolutely the case. So, moving on to something where they don't have to worry about the voices because they already exist. This is there's a new website and YouTube channel called Star Wars Kids, and just last Friday it dropped the first few episodes of this Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures, which is an animated retelling, apparently shot for shot, of the original movies, which looks really cool. So you can see them if you want. November 30th, they're already out there. It's on a YouTube channel, so it doesn't say it's a premiere channel. So I'd assume you can watch them.
So this is geared towards kids. Is
Yes.
that the
Yeah.
So when Vader storms the frigate, the Senate frigate, to capture Leia, and he force chokes that guy to death, they're gonna show that like, hey kids, bleh,
I don't know.
snap your
But
neck.
you know what? That episode is already up there. I should have watched it before I'd get on the show. That would have been cool. I should have thought of that.
I have to check it out now.
Now, it is geared towards kids. I believe they're calling it a PG, not a G. And no, it doesn't actually say that here, so that might have been me just imagining it. But is that any different than Mufasa getting spoiler alert run over by a herd of water buffalo?
A little bit, because Mufasa getting run over by a herd of buffalo is done sort of off screen. You see him fall, and then you just assume there's the assumption maybe the water buffalo are just like, let's take his wallet. I don't know, but
Or
you don't
they
don't
just
really see it.
they just run by him as he has a heart attack. Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe he just got really scared.
Exactly. It could happen. No, and maybe that's what they're going to do with this. Is that the force chokes and things like that will be off screen.
Like good cuts.
Yeah, but if you're looking for this, folks, and I'm remiss that I didn't realize that it had dropped on Friday. The first few episodes, anyway, had dropped on Friday, Joe, Bambi's mom. Good point. Disney does not shy away from killing important people right out of the gate, and in this case, that's not even an important person. That's guard number 7 or whatever. So anyway, check it out, folks. Star Wars Kids is the name of the website. I don't have the URL, but it's also the name of the YouTube channel. So
yeah, it'd be tough to share it into the chat, anyways. Unfortunately, guys, we can't really do that. YouTube tends to block that kind of stuff, and when we place it in the chat, or we'd love to place a bunch of URLs for you guys for different topics.
Right. One of the downsides of being on YouTube. All right, next topic. And that right there, folks, is an upside down, because he's flying and blasting, as you can tell by the blasters going off. That is Blue Beetle. The news is Blue Beetle is going to be, I guess this has kind of been news out there, but they are further along in the production of a Blue Beetle superhero movie, but starring Jaime Reyes, who is the current incarnation of the Blue Beetle, and one of DC's few Latino superheroes.
Yeah. Boo on DC for that, but...
Boo, oh, for not having more. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, boo on them for making a Latino superhero movie? I'm not...
Well, I mean, when you toss it up originally between Blue Beetle and Vibe...
Yeah, true. So the other good news is here. It's being written by a Mexican American writer who has a good track record as far as being a new filmmaker. He wrote, oh, okay, maybe not that great a track record. He wrote Universal's Scarface, the remake.
Universal's what? Which version?
The remake, I would assume.
Oh, the one with come on, help me out here. 80s Miami Scarface?
No. That's the original.
No, that's not the original. That's a remake of a black and white.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. The remake of the remake. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Pacino, thank you.
Yeah, he didn't write the Pacino version that I'm aware of. But let me find out. Let's look that up. Let's go to the IMDb's, folks.
While
Meanwhile,
Rodney is doing that, I'll pick it up by saying that I am really happy to see a Blue Beetle movie. I think it'd be great, especially if they made it like a sort of teenage thing, like teenage Spider-Man, but with Blue Beetle. Because Blue Beetle Jaime has a lot of things going for him. There's a lot of things. One of my favorite comic book panels where Jaime is involved has to do with Blizz, the Red Lantern. And like he first meets her, and Blez is hot as hell, and he's like, "There, this is a teenager, this kid's on the cusp of manhood." So he sees them long legs, and his armor is just like your heart is beating faster, your endorphin levels are going high, and he's just like, "Shut up!" And he's just yelling at the suit to stop like calling him out like that in front of Blez.
so IMDb does not have it listed in his writing credits, so I don't know what they're talking about. Um, he certainly has written quite a few movies, but yeah, Joe, don't let Zack Snyder direct it.
What, you don't like Grimdark Blue?
I would love to see that, and in fact, I kind of so his relationship with the Scarab, which is the sentient AI technology that becomes his suit, is a little bit, as far as the comedy goes, like Peter Parker's relationship with the AI in his Tony Stark suit in Spider-Man Homecoming. There are times when he says things that the suit completely misinterprets, and dangerous shenanigans occur from there. And that is in the way Jaime and the suit has been presented in like Young Justice and other animated versions of Jaime up to this point. It's very like that. Suit's a little bit more aggressive. Okay, a lot more aggressive. The suit is designed to kill, and it seems to kind of like it. Yeah, Joe, the Reyes version in comics was a lot more fun than the classic Ted Kord. Yes, but the Ted Kord Blue Beetle interplay and relationship, that's kind of a special level of bromance, of dumb bromance, that is rare in comics of any kind, sadly.
Yes. And cool more things. Yeah, like kind of like a DC Spider-Man. I would say more like a Miles Morales type Spider-Man in terms of, if you want to make a good comparison of where Jaime's Jimmy in English, Jaime's stance being Blue Beetle is.
So Lewis, correct me. In all of the Young Justice stuff, they call him Jaime, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
In English, my father's name is Jaime.
Yeah.
It's in English you often interpret it as Jimmy, James,
Because James,
like that. Yeah. So sometimes we say Jaime, or Jimmy.
So we don't have, I don't believe, any sort of production date yet because they're still in the process of finalizing that they're actually really going to make the movie. But having a writer and having officials say that it's in the works is a really good sign.
Très bien.
Très bien. All right, moving on to other examples of upcoming representation from comic books.
Dope.
This is dope, depending. That is sort of the newer look of Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu, in the way he's generally presented in his role as a new Avenger or a member of the Avengers. Shang-Chi from the Marvel Comics. And the news is that there is strong rumor, let's call it strong rumor, because they haven't completely confirmed this. This is a single source, unfortunately, at this point, that Marvel Studios is going to be making a Shang-Chi movie, first superhero movie with an Asian protagonist. Dave Callahan, who is a Chinese-American writer, is writing the screenplay, according to this source. This is from Deadline, and Deadline's pretty solid. And they are looking very hard at a director of Asian descent, as they say, to be the director of this film. They're trying to replicate the success of Black Panther with ethnically appropriate writers, ethnically appropriate directors, basically make this movie into something that can be the kind of representation for the Asian community that Black Panther had for the African American community.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy it. I mean, honestly, I grew up on martial art films, Bruce Lee being number one, of course, but many others. And Shang-Chi, every time I see Shang-Chi, he's always emulated Bruce Lee in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Down to his positioning in terms of martial arts. He even wore the iconic jumpsuit at some points here and there, the yellow jumpsuit that Bruce Lee has worn in a movie or two. And Shang-Chi started off with a lot of problematic things the way he was originally created. But the modern interpretation of Shang-Chi is a lot more open and inclusive. There's a lot of greatness to it. I definitely remember, I honestly, at this exact moment, I can't tell you the arc, but there was definitely an arc where the Avengers met the Eastern versions of the Avengers. They were called Spear, I think, the opposite of Shield, Spear. And Shang-Chi was the guy in between both groups who was just like, hey, like he was the one that they sent because they trusted him to negotiate things.
So, Joe, that's a good point. The Shang-Chi from the 70s version had the more of the, 70s Bruce Lee look because he was straight up modeled on Bruce Lee. There's no question about that. I had multiple copies, I think, back when I had my collection of the very first appearance of Shang-Chi, and at least the first 15 issues. Huge fan. I loved the Paul Gulacy art. Go look this stuff up. He was in the Jim Steranko style of almost psychedelic sort of art. Really interesting, very cool stuff. The problem is they made the character the son of what was essentially the original Yellow Peril stereotype villain, Fu Manchu. Fu Manchu was from the 1920s and 30s pulp novels that were just, it was awful. And they made Shang-Chi his son. So they have said in this article, Deadline has said that they have heard that they will be paying very close attention to making sure that they do not present any stereotyped content in his origin story or any part of the story of Shang-Chi. Good. They've got to come up with a good conflict because he has built into him the Star Wars conflict, at least in the original version. He's going up against his dad, the all-powerful gang lord.
Sure. And I honestly think that you can keep that as an origin, and you can make his dad the villain if so inclined, as long as you modernize it and you make it a lot better, and you really work that story. He's lore, I don't know, leader of the Triad, whatever. You can really really work that story if you are inclined to, but you got to have some great writers that understand how to make it work. Because if you have a writer that starts throwing things like slapdash into there to create a conflict, you're gonna take a great character that people can relate to on some level, and you're just gonna make it so hard to want to like him.
Yeah, and then I think that's a great idea. I think that's probably the path they will go down. And of course, I'm anticipating already the no, but you've got to make his dad Fu Manchu like he was in the comics. Like, no, no, you don't really, folks. You really, really don't. Joe, wow, Gene Day. Joe says, referencing artists on early Shang-Chi or Master of Kung Fu, which is what the title of the book was then, Gulacy and then the late Gene Day. Props, props. Anyway.
So actually, Joe makes an interesting thing here about the Mandarin concept, and in the very end of that movie, and some of the little like blurbs and stuff like that, it's implied that maybe the Mandarin wasn't the Mandarin, and maybe the person who was pretending to be the Mandarin was actually the Mandarin manipulating everyone into thinking he wasn't the Mandarin. So it's not unlikely that it could still be a concept, considering how wheels within the wheels they had that whole thing.
I'm looking at to get more information about this movie, like potential start dates and so on, and we don't have that. But Callahan co-wrote the upcoming Wonder Woman 84.
Oh.
And he wrote Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Ooh, he's writing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse teaser for an upcoming topic 2.
Duh.
Yeah. So anyway.
And that segues us into that next topic.
In fact, it exactly segues us into this next topic, which is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is not out yet, and it already has a sequel greenlit, apparently with a writer, David Callahan, and it has a spin-off, which is going to be a movie about the female characters in the Spider-Verse, the Spider-Women, or Spider-Gals, Spider whatever you want to call them. I think that's awesome. That's amazing. It's wonderful that Miles and characters like that are going to get that representation right out of the gate, and that it's, even without the movie out there yet, they know it's going to be big enough that they want a sequel. But the fact that they're doing an all-female team is fantastic.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I'm glad that they are, because like one of my favorite characters, alt characters that never gets a lot of play, and I feel like deserves her own run, is Mayday Parker. I think Mayday deserves her own like long-standing comic book series. But I also am a fan of Lady Spider, the steampunk Spider Woman. Like, she's incredible.
They're all incredible. I mean, Spider Woman, Silk, the ones from this universe, Spider Gwen. They're all fantastic. Lauren Montgomery is in negotiations to make this movie, or this animated work of the female heroes of the Spider Universe. She has worked on Voltron and co-directed both Batman Year One and Superman Batman Apocalypse.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And I gotta give it to Marvel. I gotta give them a good clap on Spider-Man here, because honestly, most of the Spider-Man animated stuff has been shit. In my opinion, in my humble yet awesome opinion, a lot of it has been shit compared to DC's animated movies. Yes. Which is funny, because DC like kills it in terms of animated movies, but when it comes to their live action, grim dark blue tint stuff, bleh.
So the only thing that I would say comes close to the DC animated work on Marvel is the Marvel Ultimate stuff. If you look at some of the Marvel Ultimates animated movies, like the 2-part Ultimates Avengers, fantastic, very, very good, really well done. But other than that, you're right. A lot of it is hit or miss. I mean, Planet Hulk is fun.
Yeah, nah.
And that's it. Now, it's just fun. Speaking of something that isn't just fun, or kind of is, but boy do they try hard to make it not, it's Fallout 76 time, folks.
Womp, womp.
Wah, wah. So first off, I've got a note. This artwork, because I could not find representative artwork for this particular part of the story, is from Eurogamer.net. They made this mashup of the two images. So Eurogamer, thank you. we're using your material. And I'm going to get it off there real quickly. So, in case you hadn't heard, Lewis, you're our Fallout player. Tell them what the story is behind those two images, and then what the news is related to the latest news related to those two images.
Well, this is actually a pretty interesting turn of events in regards to Bethesda and their faux pas. But
Faux pas. Faux pas would be me calling Jaime Jamie.
well, actually, it's not too far off because it's canvas and nylon.
Okay.
Ha ha ha! Touche. Point for Lewis.
Yeah, except it's also literally bait and switch and fraud. But anyway.
So Bethesda originally in the Power Armored Edition had promised everyone canvas bags that would hold the helmet. They were wonderful. West Tech, which is a company in Fallout that develops weaponry and things like that. Unfortunately, what players who pre-ordered the Power Armor Edition received were nylon bags, chintzy, crappy nylon bags, which looked terrible. Now, when called out on this, Bethesda originally was really quiet about it, and then when the noise got a little louder, they reached out to the community and said, "Hey, yeah, we realized that producing the canvas bags was going to be too expensive. So instead, we substituted these nylon bags because we didn't think it was a big deal. If you have a problem with it, we'll give you $500. 500 atoms, which is in-game currency to purchase things from their store for Fallout 76.
Now,
Nope.
just if I could point. Oh, okay.
Wait, let me finish. So, 500 atoms is the equivalent of $5. That's nothing. You paid $200 for this Power Armor edition, and one of the things being is people really wanted the bag. Me personally, when I buy collectibles, I want everything to be functional and something that I want to enjoy. The canvas bag being something you go to the gym, whatever, show your Fallout rep. You don't want no goddamn nylon bag. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You pay for the canvas, you pay $200. That's not cheap. That's not cheap at all. And yet, yeah, you can't even buy it in game.
Thank you, Anthony. That was going to be my point. 500 atoms will not buy you a bag in game.
Right. And the whole 500 atoms thing has been Bethesda's like approach to everything. Oh, you got a problem? Here's 500 atoms. We discounted the game from 60 to 35 bucks. Here's 500 atoms to make you feel better, to spend in their game store, which means you're not getting anything really because you paid for all that shit already.
Yep.
And you can earn 500 atoms in game very, very easily. But case in point, so Bethesda has this reneged on this deal. After being called out publicly and very loudly, they are now making canvas bags. So if you did pre-order the Power Armor Edition, put in a support ticket, they will mail you a brand new canvas bag to make up for their dumb trying to rip you off bag. Also, and it should be additionally noted that they will give you an additional 500 atoms on it if you're having any problems with the game. Now, it's great that Bethesda is trying to make up for it, but this shouldn't have been a damn thing in the first place. This shouldn't have been a problem to begin with. And then to add a bit of insult to injury, the whole canvas bag thing wouldn't have been as large as it was if Bethesda didn't pay YouTube influencers to promote the game and gave them amazing Fallout backpacks to take with them as a parting gift. So, yep. I mean, come on, Bethesda. Like, I'm a big supporter of you. I was a fan of Black Isle long before you guys bought the IP, and I want to defend you, but I am not going to defend bullshit. I'll argue some of the semantics of the gameplay and things like that with people who are just hating, because there's always haters. There's always people who never play a game and want to like shit on it anyways, whatever. I'll argue that point. But I will not defend you when you're blatantly ripping off the consumer.
Yep. I haven't seen anything. So last week we talked about the idea that there was a law firm that was looking into suing them. And I haven't seen anything further about that. As I pointed out, all of the headlines that said, they were being sued were wrong. They were being investigated by a law firm for the possibility of being sued.
So the law firm had put out a Twitter, a tweet, a Twitter, a tweet concerning if you had any issues that they listed to reach out to them so they can build a class action lawsuit. What it seems to be is, as you pointed out, that some people are putting the cart before the horse, and they're assuming that a law firm that's investigating and getting people together, a client base, to see if they can facilitate a class action lawsuit is the same as actually having a class action lawsuit.
Yep. And Anthony brings up a point. The advertising was never changed on the advertising for the $200 premium version of the game, even though they knew they had to switch the bags and that the people would not be getting the bags. They continued to advertise them as with the canvas bags. So that's the part of the argument I would gather for the possibility of a fraud lawsuit, class action or otherwise.
Yep, and that's why I assume that Bethesda is jumping on this and making these bags. And like for me, that's bullshit because honestly, if you tell people, well, money wise, it was expensive to make these bags, so we couldn't do this, so we're gonna give you these nylon bags, and then you're gonna say, oh, but sorry, we're redesigning the bags now, and we're gonna make them for you to make up for the fact that we lied and told you that we couldn't afford to. What the fuck?
Clearly, you could afford to.
yeah. Why make up the mistake? Just you could have done it from the beginning, saved yourself a whole lot of shit, because your game doesn't need any more bad press at this point.
That's
this
for
game,
sure.
I am having a great time playing it with my friends, but I'm gonna be honest here in that this company cannot afford more bullshit scandals because the player base here is dying out.
Yep. Yeah. So that's the latest Fallout 76. Yeah, I can't even say kudos to them for trying to make it right, because you're right. It's it's. Oh, guess what? We lied about not being able to afford it either. Ta-da!
Yeah, no, I wouldn't give them kudos. Fuck that. Like, give me kudos when you give people like 1,400 Atom and something extra. But you're basically we're just like, here's a coin, boy, shine my shoes, and then now you're like, oh, we made a mistake, my bad. That doesn't work.
But at least ultimately those people who paid the $200 are going to get 2 bags. You've got
I don't.
One,
that's a good point.
One that's a good bag, and one that you can put the game in and throw away in the trash. So
yeah, you have one wonderful canvas bag, and then you have a trash bag.
Exactly. All right, moving on to our next topic, and we got a couple of topics in a row here that are really interesting and connected. First off, that is a screenshot from the Blade Runner 2022 short that was on YouTube and a couple of other places that was made by Watanabe, the guy who made Cowboy Bebop. And the news is that Netflix is going to be making a series based on Blade Runner 2049 with Watanabe in a major role, a producer role. Well, let me look this. So it's inspired by Blade Runner 2049. So I'm assuming it's called Blade Runner Black Lotus. 13 half-hour episodes, and it will be set in 2032. So in between Blade Runner 2022, which told the story of the Blackout event. I'm sorry, Blackout 22 was called. Blade Runner Blackout 2022. This will take place between that and the events of 2049. Working for this Sola Digital Arts is Shinji Aramaki, Kenji Kimiyama, and they did, or they're working on the upcoming Ghost in the Shell series reboot. Watanabe will be the creative producer. Yeah. So I really like this idea. I think if there's anything that could fit, as the shorts showed, perfectly into an anime universe, it's the Blade Runner universe.
Absolutely.
Really looking forward to this. Um, so this is going to be produced by Adult Swim and Crunchyroll. Ooh,
Ooh, très bien.
très bien. So if you got a Crunchyroll subscription, apparently this will work. Story will be Adult Swim Alex DeCamp, who's written No Mercy for Image. Ooh. All right, so Joe.
Joseph, if you keep chiming in like this, I'm gonna have to put you on the payroll, bro.
Exactly. Those you get all those experience bucks that Lewis is getting. So Joseph said, story is it will be Adult Swim with Alex DeCampi, who's written No Mercy for Image, and Archie versus Predator. Has written at least 2 of the episodes. Yes, yes, and all kinds of yes. I'm a huge fan of any of the concepts of mucking around with the Archie universe. I think that's awesome. Let's get back to our beautiful faces here, as opposed to that beautiful face. So I'm really excited about this. I really want to see this. I love the universe that it's in. I love 2049 as weird and slow and at times operatic and so very European, which makes sense. Being made by Denis Villeneuve.
It's funny because I didn't watch 2049 till like I want to say a year after it came out, give or take. And I'll be honest in that I do love high drama, but at the same time, 2049 was really long for me. But I did watch it again, and that's the second time is when I enjoyed it. And I think because I was waiting for, it's hard to explain, but I was waiting for something to happen when I first watched it, and then knowing that stuff where everything cued in the movie, I made the movie a lot more enjoyable for me the second time.
Right. If you're anticipating something that's a little, even as slow as it could be at times, the original Blade Runner was more of an action movie than 2049. But that doesn't. 2049 is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Joe, Alex is a friend of yours. Congratulations. She's thrilled. Okay. I don't know if I used he as a pronoun. I certainly thought he in my head. So thank you, Joe, for correcting that. Alex is a she, and she is thrilled with this gig. I can imagine. See, here's Blade. You get to write a couple of episodes of a Blade Runner show. No. That person needs therapy if that was the case. Luminous, welcome.
We do have matching headphones. We also have matching heads. I'm the Spanish version of Rodrigo.
And the younger version of Rodrigo.
I got a little salt and pepper going on now, just like you do.
Yeah, no, I got a lot of salt and a little pepper.
My salt is more like right here because of my clients, and then they got one right here that I name after one of my. I call it Bob. Bob.
That's my Bob. The stress. Anyway, following up on the Blade Runner, Cowboy Bebop.
Hell yeah.
So this is, I hope. So getting back to Watanabe, this is going to be on Netflix, and it's going to be a live-action series. And Watanabe is going to be a consultant on the series. So it's being written by Christopher Yost, who wrote Thor Ragnarok. So the humor looks like it'll still be there. But we don't know anything else. They don't have anybody assigned to it as far as cast or anything else like that yet. Everybody, of course, wants it to be Keanu Reeves playing Spike.
That's not going to happen. I don't see that.
I don't see it happening, and frankly, Keanu is too old at this point.
You think so? Because they never actually give an age to Spike, last I recall.
I picture Spike as a 30-something.
And to be honest, Keanu Reeves is like Dorian Gray.
Well, that's true. He could play down to 30 pretty easily. I mean that's not a challenge for him. Somewhere there's a painting that's aging, or he's bathing in the blood of somebody, or yeah. Um, all right, Joe, you're pimping Alex pretty hard here, which is a great thing. Apparently, Joe says she also had a script for that upcoming Ghost in the Shell series reboot that has been approved. So good for Alex.
That's a good friend to have.
That's a very good friend to have. So there's also a lot of trepidation out here about the Cowboy Bebop live action. Will they be able to pull off the same tone? Will they want to? Will Netflix let them?
So, all right, I'm gonna throw in my opinion, and then all of you guys can hate me for this. If Netflix is producing Cowboy Bebop, I don't want it to be like Cowboy Bebop. And that sounds stupid, but let me explain here a little bit. I know I've been imbuing the liqueur, but I can explain this pretty well. So, I've already seen Cowboy Bebop. I already seen what the story is about. I already seen the conflicts, the issue with Julia, everyone's personal back and forth told through various episodes and so on and so forth. So as ideally as I would want to see that again, but live action, at the same time, I want something a little bit more, a little bit different. Maybe we can keep that narrative, but we can also expand on it. We can add things, we can play with things that we normally wouldn't do in an anime. Keep that kick-ass music, absolutely, but at the same time, we can learn more about Jet. We can learn more about Ganymede. We can learn more about other things. We can have interactions. We can even introduce new characters into this to provide foil and plot. I want to see more now, not the same thing, because I already seen the same thing. Now I want to see better, different. I'm not saying so alien that it's not Cowboy Bebop, but I want more.
So I agree. I would like to see different stories because we've seen all the stories, and the plot and the storylines have played out very well. I would love to see these characters doing different stories. That even if the final resolution isn't the same, it's thematically and emotionally the same. But you're right; they can expand it off. They could really expand on Jet. I think I agree there 100% that Jet is throughout much of the show, unfortunately, a cipher. He is the he's the straight man,
Yeah.
and that's all his role is, and that's a shame. Anthony just does not want to see a repeat of Death Note. I don't think you have to worry about that because you're not dealing with characters who have to be Americanized because their names are already essentially American.
Yeah.
They just happen to be in outer space.
If anything, I would treat Cowboy Bebop a bit like Firefly in that everybody is everyone.
Right, right. So I think it's less problematic than Death Note, but I think it's, to my mind, more problematic in that they have such big shoes to fill. I understand Death Note was very important to a lot of people. It was still, it was still a show that should have ended halfway through and jumped the shark harder than almost anything I've ever seen halfway through. And the last half is completely pointless and worthless. No reason to watch it whatsoever. Cowboy Bebop is not like that.
And I would, I'll honestly argue the point that like Death Note is Death Note, Cowboy Bebop is fucking art.
Right.
Down to the music, to the angles, to the views, to the presentation, it is art.
Yep.
Like moving Picassos.
Everything, all my fingers crossed for a return of Yoko Kanno, but a completely new jazz score.
Oh my god. That jazz score saw me through high school.
Oh, so good. And if you like that music, go please watch the anime Kids on the Slope. Please.
On a personal opinion, real briefly before we move on to the next topic.
Okay.
Yoko Kanno and her music is the reason why I like a lot of the music I like now, because I grew up with a certain genre of music and I never expanded that genre until a little bit towards the end of my high school career. And then watching Cowboy Bebop and listening to that fine as hell jazz and invoking the emotions that it did opened me up into doing other things, trying out things like Shakespeare, doing all these amazing other things. So I definitely credit her music with broadening my horizons in terms of things that I want to enjoy.
Absolutely. Um, and just the fact that if you do watch Kids on the Slope and you watch the piano playing, that's Yoko Kanno's fingers rotoscoped. They actually animated over movies of her playing the piano so that, when somebody plays, a line from Bill Evans, it looks just like somebody who knew that song playing the piano. So anyway, go watch that. Um, Despacito. Got to get Despacito in there. So Slime Queen. There you go. There's your shout out from us. All right.
Alexa, play Despacito Dos.
Moving on to our next topic, it is reactions to the Captain Marvel, Super Saiyan Marvel.
Mm-mm.
No?
Mm-mm. Nah.
No, not Super Saiyan Marvel. Captain Marvel trailer number 2, or actually official trailer, because the other one was a teaser, dropped. And I got goosebumps.
Yeah. Now that we actually seen the whole trailer where she's not just beating up the elderly, and we know what is going on, and I'm like freaking excited. I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. I know I want to.
Oh, so all the wonderful things. So first off, apparently this is a little bit of a spoiler, even though it's a speculative spoiler, and it comes from the folks at Nerdist. I didn't discover this, but boy, this trailer makes it look like this is in fact true. So if you don't want to hear about Jude Law's character, until the next time I do this, you can put your fingers in your ears.
So that's already been confirmed, by the way, what you're going to say, but...
Oh, it has?
It's been confirmed.
Okay. So Jude Law is not playing Mar-Vell. He is playing Mar-Vell's nemesis, Yon-Rogg.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bad guy, folks. And one of my favorite bad guys. In the early Marvel, which I had all that run back in the late 60s, I loved Yon-Rogg as a bad guy. Because he was written really well as a bad guy. He was not... a Snidely Whiplash or whatever. He was Lucius Vorenus from Rome, a hidebound, stick up his ass officer who happened to have a Severus Snape-like crush on the woman that Mar-Vell liked. And it was really well written. I hope that his character is that well written in the movie. But the trailer makes it really clear that he is not particularly friendly towards Carol Danvers. Joe, he was an evil Glenn Talbot. Yes, but Glenn Talbot was a schmuck. Right from the get-go, Glenn Talbot was written as a schmuck until later on they made him a little bit more heroic. But he was a schmuck from the word one. Yon-Rogg was never a schmuck. He was a bad guy, but
he was a manifest destiny bad guy. He was
yes.
like, this is my role in the universe, and this is where I think we're gonna be, and nothing gets in my way to make this happen.
Yes.
This is what I'm supposed to be type of person, and that's the sort of impression in that little blurb you see in the trailer that he has when he's berating Captain Marvel.
Yep.
Where I see that manifest destiny kind of mentality that like you're a human who was given Kree energy, Kree powers, and I am Kree, and I'm a white Kree at that. And if a lot of you guys don't understand the white Kree, blue Kree thing, the supreme intelligence that runs the Kree Empire decreed that the blue Kree, the original aliens, were at an evolutionary dead end, and the only way they would continue to evolve is by crossbreeding. So they crossbred with other races, which included humans, and that's why you have pink or white Kree, and Jude Law would be the pink Kree is how they referred to them.
Right. There's so many wonderful aspects if they want to get into the history of the Kree. There's racial aspects to the story. ethnic cleansing, genocide, eugenics, all of the horrible things that you can think of are in the Kree story. And boy, Manifest Destiny is a great way to describe it because you can't picture, as an entity of people, anybody more Manifest Destiny than the Kree. But other things, Nick Fury is a cat guy. Well, alien cat, but still, Nick Fury likes cats. That was cool. The flying, the space combat and flying in the last 10, 15, 20 seconds of that trailer, that's what gave me the goosebumps. That just
So
this is the way that sort of stuff should have been done in any any type of superhero movie up to this point.
So I absolutely agree with you that I am a fan of that. I will say on a personal thing, I kind of hate it, and it's stupid. Why I hate it? It's because space combat is more than three dimensional. So if you watch Enterprise, for example, they make a good point of showing that combat is subjective or perspective is subjective in
Oh,
space because
it's more
things
than
are
two
here, there.
dimensional. You mean? Yeah,
Right.
yeah. We only see her go across the two dimensional
Everybody
screen.
flies like an airplane.
Right, right. In those clips, we don't know yet how well they're going to be using that.
I'm gonna I'll put my money on it that it's gonna be like flying an airplane out in space because people like me, they're not listening to people like me because I'm just nitpicking dumb things.
Yeah, but some of them do. Because you're right, there are shows where that is not the case. Enterprise is one of them. Some of the Firefly, some of the later Star Trek movies, they had wonderful examples of three-dimensional space combat. Anyway, and here's my little personal thing, I'm going to get over it because I need to and I have to. I love Brie Larson as an actress. I have a problem with her voice as Marvel.
Fair.
In reading the comics, Marvel to me is a badass, and the voice I hear is like Katie Sackhoff in Battlestar Galactica. I hear a tough as nails soldier when I'm reading the comic. Brie Larson has a cute voice. And so I'm going to have to get used to the idea of Marvel with a cute voice. I love, like I said, I think she's an amazing actress. I'm really looking forward to her portrayal. Just going to have to listen through that voice a couple of times.
I will agree with you somewhat, but I will also say this as a point, is that I always like to wait to the heroic speech. Like every character, every hero has that Independence Day speech. They always have something that gets the people going. Usually you'll see a range of emotion and tonality in those speeches that you normally wouldn't associate with that character, and that usually signifies that that character has growth as a leader.
Yeah.
And then you'll start hearing that tone later on when they're dictating to other characters. So I'm gonna wait till I hear Captain Marvel pull that speech off before I decide if I dislike her voice.
That's true. That's a good point. And like I said, it's not going to stop me from loving this film, or probably loving this film. We have to see when it comes out. Joe, yeah. Good point.
Carol Corpse for life.
Exactly. Larson is no Starbuck. But as Lewis said, plus most of when we hear her speaking is as somebody who has been apparently brainwashed. So we don't know how much of that is the effect of her conditioning and how much of it is actually the character. But we'll find out.
But hold on. But I will say this, and this is not related to Brie Larson. The fucking Skrulls look amazing.
Yes, the
so
Skrulls.
Good. I was actually worried about the Skrulls, how they would look. I honestly was like, they're gonna make them stupid. They're gonna scrotum chin them like they did with Thanos. But when you see them, when you finally see them in motion and doing stuff, it's like, wow, they actually put effort into making this look so good. I was so happy.
Including the one who gets her head caved in on a bus pole. or a subway pole. That was pretty awesome. Even though at that moment she looks like an elderly woman, or he or it, because it's an alien. So, Joe, her real test will be Avengers 4. Yes, but no, I don't. I think this is her real test. You know, she's in Avengers 4. That's it's wrapped as far as filming goes. That's not going to change. Her test, as far as whether or not she is able to be a believable, badass, heroic character, is this movie. That movie is Captain Marvel. It comes before Avengers 4, I think.
It does. It takes place in the 90s.
Yeah. No. I mean, the test comes before Avengers 4. The test comes in her own movie. Our next and last topic, and we're running over, folks, but it's a big topic, and we've got Lewis and I here together, and we talk a lot. So our last topic, folks, you've seen it. You saw the news. It broke right after, the day after our last show. Daredevil is canned from Netflix. No season 4. Season 3 got just absolutely fantastic reviews, particularly in comparison to season 2, which is this is a promotional image from. But no season 4. And after the news came out, we found some other stuff in talking to the head writer. They had season 4 completely planned out, major storyboard of every episode up on the wall. They were getting ready to write each individual episode, and the hammer dropped. And apparently, according to the same writer, the Marvel execs who were there with them in the planning meetings for the upcoming season were just as floored, just as stunned by the news. Yeah, Luminous, I want to see more Daredevil too. The problem is
Punisher and Jessica Jones, Joe.
Yes, they have they've committed to a third season of Jessica Jones, and they have not yet canceled that because I think it must be in production, and a second season of Punisher. And after that, all bets are off. They have not said anything about the Defenders, but since we don't have Daredevil and we don't have Luke Cage and we don't have Iron Fist, I'm pretty sure there's not going to be a Defenders.
Almost 100%.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
And there's so many things coming out about how the varied reasons why these shows were canceled. There's a lot of speculation on top of it as well.
Being cast as declarative, accurate statements, which is bullshit. Unless you were in the Netflix room listening to them make their decision, you don't know why, and you don't know where or what the future of any of these properties, if they have a future, will be.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Honestly, everything you read right now, you should take with a grain of salt, with the exception of some of the stuff that the writers are saying. But a lot of the writers and the people who are talking, who were in there when this happened, they're talking from the perspective of people who were employed. So they're not going to have the whole picture of what's going on. They're just going to have what their understanding of what's going on, what they were told, and so on. And some of it's sad because a lot of them, they really put their blood and sweat into this show, and it shows, especially season 3. It really shows that they put such a phenomenal foot forward in terms of production and theatrics. But the internet being the internet and people taking things away. Everybody is an analyst on the internet. Everyone is a lawyer on the internet.
It's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Hopefully with a little bit more of a bent towards realism and accuracy, but you never know. So let's be clear here. Netflix is making these shows. Netflix was paying for these shows, and unless Disney went in and somehow paid an awful lot of money to Netflix, which we haven't heard and isn't part of any contract that was known up to that point, to get them to cancel the shows, the decision was Netflix's, not Disney's.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly believe that. I believe that it's 100% on Netflix and not Disney. I know a lot of people like to blame the House of Mouse for these sort of things because some of the speculation being that, well, DC's coming out with their own Marvel streaming and yada, yada, yada. That's fantastic. But there's a lot of backdoor deals that have been going on. One of them being is that Netflix is the global streaming service for Marvel and DC at the moment, as well, and a lot of other streaming shows. See, a lot of it, and this is something actually. This is an interesting point, Rod. I think, and you could disagree with me on this, but I think a lot of Americans tend to only think of America. Like when we talk, we only talk about America. We don't talk about the rest of the world. So for all of us, we're thinking, well, we have Hulu, yeah, Netflix, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But outside of the US, Canada, Europe, things like that, they don't necessarily have access to the streaming services that we do. So they require an agency vehicle that would assist with that. Netflix has accumulated a rather robust deal with a lot of these companies to stream their content outside of outside of the US. I'll give you a good example actually is when you see the Titans for DC, if you see some of the promos, it actually says Netflix in the bottom left-hand corner
Yep.
because Netflix owns the streaming rights outside of America.
That threw me off on the second trailer because it was a Netflix trailer from the UK for
Yeah.
Titans, and I'm like,
Yeah.
took me a while to
So
get that.
so for me to blame the House of Mouse would mean that somehow, some way, Netflix is willing to put these like extra America contracts on a risk, maybe to gain the ire of like one of the biggest, literally by and large from Wally. Like, why do you want to piss off by and large? You know,
Right.
so maybe you canceled it. I feel Netflix is beholden to the consumer in terms of like cancellation.
Yeah, there could very well, yes, there are plenty of political aspects to the decision that we obviously don't have any knowledge of. We don't have any knowledge of the monetary aspects of it. Or frankly, we don't have any knowledge of the ratings aspects of it, too. I've seen people talk about how these shows were underperforming. All of the Marvel shows were underperforming for Netflix. Netflix doesn't put out ratings like that, so we don't know.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. We only know about the social media interaction. That is something that has been mentioned, and it was less than 50,000, I think they had mentioned in terms of how many people have mentioned Daredevil season 3, and they were basing some of that information on some kind of system that they have access to. It's really it's complex.
yes. Now, I will give Netflix this. They are geniuses when it comes to uh, gathering all the data about their content and analyzing it. That they've done some really amazing things with data that they get that they use for other things. I'm trying to remember what some of these examples are. I'll have to look them up. But Netflix has actually done some really impressive things with data. So I can't fault their data analytics, and I'm sure that was the driver behind most of these decisions. These will not show up on Disney Plus, folks. There's absolutely no reason to think that in this form. There may be a Daredevil on Disney Plus at some point.
Even an animated.
Even an animated. Uh, as much as I hate to say it, there is almost no chance whatsoever that Charlie Cox is going to be Daredevil on a Disney Plus. He's out of his contract and he's gone to something else. I guarantee he's already looking for his next gig.
Yeah, yeah, and and I will say this in terms of like Netflix and one of the things that I haven't heard people say too is what about Marvel fatigue? We've been bombarded with nonstop movies and other things. If it's not Marvel, it's Star Wars. We've been bombarded with nonstop to the point where Star Wars is actually slowing down in terms of production because of how the fatigue is large. And I feel that part of what caused the Daredevil cancellation and Luke Cage and all of that is Marvel fatigue. Is that people just got exhausted and stopped watching.
Maybe. So here's a lot of this concept of fatigue goes back a long time, and it goes back to when I was a kid, and there were wholesale decisions to move past rural comedies in the late 60s. So you lost Green Acres, and you lost Petticoat Junction, and you even lost Beverly Hillbillies, and so on. There was a decision to move past Westerns in the early 70s. And you lost Gunsmoke, and you lost Bonanza, and so on. The accepted storyline is that was because of viewer fatigue for these particular genres. That may have been part of it, but I think that it's as much of a change in leadership at the various networks who wanted to go to either a more urban or a more sophisticated form of comedy or drama, that they didn't like the audience that they were reaching.
That I can agree to that. I can definitely agree to that. I do think that fatigue in this particular thing with Marvel is actually a thing, because there are people who talk about it constantly about how there's so many Marvel movies coming out. They're so tired of getting hyped up for the next movie, and they're so tired of these other Marvel things that are being, except for the current Avengers movie, which is crazy hype thanks to the Russo brothers.
So let me just go off on a tangent, and I'll let you finish up, and then we got to wrap up here. I love the Russo brothers in everything they've done. I am absolutely fatigued and pissed and sick of their social media trolling of all of us super fans who really want just to know something. They clearly like trolling to the extent of lying about what's coming up in trailers, what's coming up in, even putting stuff in trailers that just will not ever be in the movie. And that, I'm really getting tired of that. I'm really getting tired of the Russo brothers doing that. As much as I love them as directors and writers. Sorry. Your point.
No. I mean, that kind of folds into my point about fatigue, because fatigue can come from many different directions, and there's a lot, Marvel, I get tired. I remember I was joking around with some friends of mine a couple nights ago in terms of Daredevil and the lowered viewership because of fatigue. And I had said to a friend of mine, I was just like, "Oh man, Daredevil, it sucks that they canceled it." And my friend's like, "I can't, f Netflix for canceling this show that I thought was amazing." And I'm like, "What episode did you like?" And they're like, "I didn't see it." And I'm like, that's literally the point. That's literally the argument here, is that you didn't see it, and that's one of the reasons that they used to cancel this series.
Yeah.
So being angry at Netflix for canceling something that your lazy ass didn't watch or had no intention of watching immediately or right away or within the year, it's just a false outrage.
Yeah. God, I want to go off on a tip, but nope, we're running late.
Yeah.
So, thank you everybody for tuning into this Nerd Week Live. Louis, do you have a quick could we please or could we not, or no?
No, nothing today.
All right, same here. So folks, again, thank you all for joining us. For Louis Correa, Crash the Photos, Crash Stampede, Crash Override, Crash Everything, Crash Into You. Nope, sorry, that's a song.
Just not Crash Test.
And me, Rodney Brown.
Rodrigo.
First-person shooter, early adopter, editor-in-chief at That There Nerd Caliber. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next week. We'll have a lot of really good stuff, and maybe an Avengers 4 trailer on Friday?
Oh, hopefully. Maybe tomorrow.
So everything I've read, so I guess we are going to go on. Everything I've read in the last couple of hours has said, speculatively, but with apparently good sources, that they're not going to be doing it tomorrow because of the National Day of Mourning. So,
more so for some than others.
This is true. For those of us who are old enough to remember that we really wanted George H.W. Bush to win over Ronald Reagan, and God, we wouldn't have had 8 years of Ed Meese and the moral majority, and anyway. So, good night, folks, on that note, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.